Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Charmley, and this is another video about a Derbyshire church. Funny that. This is the Church of St Michael and All Angels, Boylstone, which is a practically complete 14th century building. There was a church here at least as early as the beginning of the 12th century, and there are a couple of bits of it left. But this is basically a 14th century rebuilt. Early 14th century rebuilt. It's been heavily Victorianized, shall we say, restored by the Victorians, but it retains much of its 14th century character. The roof line, of course, you have your 15th century roof line alterations. So the Victorians have not just gone back and said, let's make it look like it did in the 14th century. They've been a little bit more sensible here. Well, let's have a look around then and explore this fascinating building. It's particularly notable for its stonework. We start off right at the west end in the tower. The 14th century tower now contains the modern toilet, and just see there the 14th century tower roof. I'm going to put the lights on in here. There's a lovely Norman tub font. This is the oldest thing in the church other than a single Norman pillar. But you can see it's a lovely carved tub. It's not easy to see necessarily all the carving on it. You can see there's a cross here, and again you've got this interlacing work, knot work up there, the ringing gallery. And here we have an angry woman tearing her hair in rage. It's a sort of piece of humour that these 14th century stonemasons like to engage in. If you're doing the decoration, why not? I wonder, is that the master mason's wife angry with him again for something? And on the other hand, on the other side, we have a grumpy face. Is this the master mason angry, or is he suffering from his wife having slapped him or something? Hard to tell. We have the war memorial at the back here, and you can see just through there's the modern toilet. The arcades, you've got these round columns which probably at least reuse some Norman work actually, and there's the arms of King George IV. We'll have a look in there later. You've got aisles on both sides. This is your classic 14th century church. This is what the Victorians really loved. Now, thankfully, this is restored in 1840s, and you can just see there, look at that wonderful Norman capital there. Everything else is quite plain. The pulpit appears to be the top of an old three-decker, so they've reused some of the Georgian work, and here we have the organ. Now, the organ is in memory of Alfred. I know this is the restoration, and the case looks part of the restoration, but originally this is presented in 1886 in memory of Elizabeth Sampson. It's then restored, renovated and added to, and then so it's an organ that has quite a history to it. There would have been, of course, a chapel in here in the Middle Ages, but it's now been superseded by the organ, and you can't even see a piscina or anything. You'll notice that there is very little stained glass, so the building is flooded with light on this beautiful winter day. This is interesting. This is what's called a low side window. Now, we don't really know what low side windows were for, but it's quite common to have a window here low down where someone could perhaps put a hand out. Now, this has been filled, I suspect, in the 19th century by this trefoil. These choir stalls here, all 19th century, and then as we move east we have memorials to various folk. Reverend William Auden, M.A. of St John's College, Cambridge, for nearly 40 years, vicar of this parish, who went into arrest January the 28th, 1904, in the 70th year of his age. This tablet is erected by his parishioners and friends in grateful recognition of his long and faithful ministry. Long ministries were not unusual, of course, in those days, because basically the vicar could just, and they were vicars here, the vicar could just choose to stay on. Now, what's the difference between a vicar and a rector? Well, a rector receives the tithes, the vicar serves for whoever actually collects the tithes, and here until the Reformation it was the abbey at Tutbury. Here is a memorial to Lucy, beloved daughter of Reverend John William Jones and Jane Cullingworth, his wife, who died April 22nd, 1839, aged 19 years. Also William Lewis, eldest son and eldest and beloved son of the said John William Jones, who died August the 6th, 1846, at Pleasant Valley near Davenport, Iowa, North America, aged 21 years. So you have here the family, the children, son goes off to America, the daughter dies only 19. Simple reredos, this suggests, again, not an Anglo-Catholic tradition here. The sedilia, carved, original 14th century. We have here a couple of 14th century bosses. One of them's got a Victorian statue of St. Michael. And again, we have this angry woman. I'm not quite sure whether she's got the slanted brows. She's angry. What's she angry at? Who is she? We don't know. Often these were based on real people. And we look all the way west here, and you can see thankfully it's very good stone. I mean, some of it actually looks like ashlar work that was intended to be seen. This lower portion was probably intended to be left exposed, but this upper stuff is all a bit rough, so it probably wasn't. And we move back west, making sure I don't trip over anything on the way. You'll notice that Reverend Jones, actually, before I say anything about Reverend Jones, this is a 19th century arch, a Victorian arch. So the old arch has gone, nice 15th century ceiling there. But Reverend Jones, he's Welsh, and it wasn't unusual for Welsh clergy, particularly of an evangelical bent, to end up in England because the English were less hostile to evangelicalism at the time. Yes, we do have quite a decent east window there. You've got Christ appearing to Mary Magdalene after the resurrection in the middle there. Here, the Nativity. This would have been sort of a lady chapel. You can see it's not used as a chapel now. There's the lady chapel piscina, which has been cut away in order to put something in front of it, and then it's been exposed again. You look over at the organ. And here we have some photographs of the interior. This is the interior before the Victorians went mad. You can see you've got your box pews, three-decker pulpit, and the original 14th century arch. Why did they destroy the 14th century arch? Well, here's the man responsible, and there's what he did. It's amazing, really, that a 14th century arch is destroyed by the Victorians to create this new thing, which is just not authentic. And if you're trying to be authentic, what the Victorians did, you can see also the position there of the royal arms above the arch, and of course the arch has been raised. There's no reason to raise it, by the way. It doesn't improve visibility or anything. It just, there we go. And the arms, therefore, George IV have to be put in here. Now this here is the old weathercock, which dated from 1703. You can see it's a fairly rough and ready piece. Obviously it's much rougher than it was originally because it has been weathered and it's come down, been replaced, and they've put the old bird in here. So there we are, that's the inside. You can see here where there have been things inserted into the pillars that have then been removed and blocked in. But it's an interesting building, and apart from that tower arch, which is an awful piece of vandalism, not the tower arch, the chancel arch, it is fairly low key. There we have the parish chest, and you can see it's got its 3 locks, and that was so that no one person could unlock it. It would be the church wardens and the vicar, and each would have 1 key. And in there were kept the registers, which meant no one could alter the registers without, well, it being known. No one could alter the registers on their own, and also some of the valuables, so they couldn't be stolen. But particularly the registers, because things like marriage registers and baptismal registers that would show somebody's date of birth and their legitimacy, these things could be taken away and altered, and so it's locked up to make sure these sensitive, important official records can't be changed. So there we are, that's the interior then of St Michael and All Angels Church, Broughton. We'll go outside and have a look at the exterior of this magnificent 14th century church. And so here we are at the outside, and this magnificent 14th century building, tower, nave, chancel, aisles, porch. Porch is Victorian. We'll have a look around and point out some of the salient features. And so here we go. The first thing to point out is the spire, little recessed spire inside the parapet, and you can just see there you've got your pinnacles, and just above the central crenellation, above the gargoyles, lovely gargoyles, is a door that leads out onto the parapet, and at the other end is the at one corner we have there the tower. You can see also on the west, on the east face rather, the tower, the original 14th century roof line, and then you've got this 15th century clerestory. And in fact we discover, I talked about that low side window. It's not a low side window, well, it is kind of a low side window position, but it's clearly it's related to this tomb recess in the chancel. Now, why is there a tomb recess in the chancel? Well, if you were somebody important, you got buried somewhere important, and the chancel's got an important place to have a burial. So here's this tomb recess, and is that low side window thing actually related to the tomb recess, and perhaps a chantry that would have been associated with it? It's a nice 15th century window there. We obviously started going around the east side and normally start on the west side, but we can do things differently this time. And most of the stonework is original, is medieval. I'm not quite sure about that turret, but it is largely medieval. East window, nicely carved, and there's a wonderful, here we are, the north side dips away down here, and if we get to the right place we may be able to see there's an old, just about see on the horizon there's an old manor house, an old mansion actually, Tudor mansion, which gets wonderful views, of course, the church tower, so it's obviously built for that. Yes, that turret, that stair turret, is 14th century. So it's very much, it does appear that the face, the north face of the north aisle has been replaced, been refaced rather, probably just erosion. It is this magnificent building, and it gives a really good idea of what a 14th century church in its prime looked like. A building that's, it's had the usual alterations in terms of the clerestory, but the rest of it is 14th century. You've got this enormous great boiler house, etc. complex at the west end, but again, we need heating. Heating is important. It's all very well to say, well, they didn't need in the Middle Ages, yes, but A, there were more people in the church in the Middle Ages, and B, in the Middle Ages people were used to being colder at home. So we come all the way around out here and you see these lovely slate grave slabs, very typical of this part of the world. There's the old schoolhouse over the road. So that's St Michael and All Angels Church, Broughton. Lovely gargoyles up there. And that again is a very 14th century thing, to have these decorative gargoyles vomiting forth water when it rains. Well, we'll I'll say a few words in closing. I just see there's the old vicarage. Obviously a private house now, so just what you can see publicly. So we'll just say a few words in closing and then I'll move on. I have other things to do on this beautiful day, other videos to make. And so here we are, Church Broughton. It is, in my mind, one of the most perfect examples of a 14th century church. You've got everything the Victorians liked. You've got a west tower, you've got a spire on top of it, you've got aisles on both sides. It is just the perfect 14th century church, and you can see why the Victorians don't do a lot with the outside. They just do some stuff on the inside, including destroying the chancel arch. I'm rather annoyed about that, but there we are. But it doesn't do anything useful. If you did something useful, like opening it up so people could see, it would have been helpful, but it doesn't. It just appears to be, oh, we want it to be taller. No, it's not supposed to be taller. And of course the reason it's not supposed to be taller, just to go back to that, is to do with the rood being up there, and you'd have painting over there in the 14th century. But there we are, St Michael's Church, Broughton. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy these videos. I certainly enjoy making them. I enjoy coming out on a lovely, lovely January day like this and basking in the sunshine and trying to ignore it's a bit chilly sometimes. So just thank you again for watching, and may God bless you and keep you, and hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much.